Hello students, welcome to lecture 8 of our surface chemistry online classes. In last class we learned about the properties of the colloidal solution. Due to their intermediate size, more than true solution and less than suspension, which is 1 nanometer to 1000 nanometer. They have very unique properties which are not seen in true solution, not in suspension. The first property being is the colloidal property, then optical property like Tyndall effect, color, and kinetic property like Brownian movement, and the origin of charge we have completed. Now we'll go to the next property of the colloidal solution, which we can number it as 6. It is electrophoresis. Now what we mean by electrophoresis, one of the important property of colloidal solution, we can say that it is nothing but movement of colloidal particles. Movement of colloidal particles towards anode or cathode. Anode, which is positively charged electrode, or cathode, which is negatively charged electrode, under the influence of an electric field. We know that colloidal particles, they always carry equal and similar charge, and due to that charge they are stable. We have made the list of positively charged colloid, negatively charged colloid. In positively charged colloid we have listed hydrated metal oxide, metal hydroxide, metal oxides like titanium oxide, some basic dyes like methylene blue, and hemoglobin from the blood. In the negatively charged colloid we listed metal salts, metal sulfide salts, acidic dyes like Congo red and eosin, and gelatin, gum, proteins, starch, and the clay, right? So this charge is present from colloidal particle, and they migrate towards the oppositely charged electrode. So we can observe in electrophoresis towards which electrode they are moving, either to anode or to the cathode, and we can confirm charge present on the colloidal particle. How it is done? They will take this one U-shaped glass tube. This is a glass tube, like this, and in this glass tube they will take the colloidal solution. Which colloidal solution? That colloidal solution of which charge is to be determined. Like this, colloidal solution is taken, and in this platinum electrode are immersed, and they will connect to the positively charged electrode, which will be anode there, and negatively charged electrode to the cathode. In Bredig-Zerk method also we have immersed two electrode, but I have not labeled one as anode and one as cathode. You should take care that only by just this immersing electrode will not be serve our purpose. We have to mention which is anode. You can mention anyone, that doesn't matter. So if we take the ferric hydroxide soul, being the ferric hydroxide soul, it is a positively charged soul. and its particle, these are its particle, dispersed phase particles. They will migrate towards the negatively charged electrode. So by looking into movement, if we take As2S3 soul, which is negative soul, they will migrate towards the anode. So we can say that we can be reading this. This is nothing but U-shaped glass tube, U-shaped glass tube, and these are nothing but platinum electrodes, and we can say electric current of 100 volt is applied. Voltage is applied. Then what happens? If charge on toroid migrate towards and name of process, we can say if charge on toroid is negative, it will migrate towards anode, and the process is called as anaphoresis. Another is given for anode, anaphoresis, because they are migrating towards anode. If it is positive, migrate towards cathode, and this is called as cataphoresis. Yes, so question will be asked for 2 marks. What is electrophoresis? Explain the process. Electrophoresis is a movement of toroidal particles towards anode or cathode under the influence of electric field. Colloidal solid or colloidal solution whose charge is determined is taken in U-shaped glass tube. Platinum electrodes are immersed. Electric current of 100 volt is applied. Colloidal particles migrate towards the oppositely charged electron. If they migrate towards cathode, process is called as cataphoresis. Migrate towards anode, it is called as anaphoresis. One example also you can give when the colloid is negative charge. It is As2, S3 soul particles, and if it is negatively charged, it is ferric hydroxide soul particles. So that explanation is more than enough. Now in the electrophoresis only, there is one another phenomenon called as electroosmosis. Electroosmosis. What is electroosmosis? See that if movement of dispersed phase is prevented, how it is prevented? By keeping the suitable membrane here, which allows only dispersed medium particles to pass through. Prevented. DM particles migrate because they also carry charge, opposite charge as that of dp. Migrate towards oppositely charged electrode. Oppositely charged electrode, and that process is called as electroosmosis. Instead of dp, dm now migrates, then it is electroosmosis. If dp migrates, electrophoresis. So these two words, electrophoresis, electroosmosis, is also the property of the colloidal solution, because of they carry the charge on their particles. Now the next property, last property we can say, seventh property, is called as coagulation. Coagulation. This is also very important property of the colloidal particles. All these properties are very unique. We never come across such properties in the true solution or the suspension, because of their intermediate size, they have these properties. So seventh is coagulation, also called as precipitation, settling down, precipitation, also called as flocculation, flocculation. These are the three words we are using for this property. Now what is the coagulation? We can say settling down, settles down, dispersed particle settles down, means we are moving from colloid to suspension now. Settling down of colloidal particles is called coagulation. It's called coagulation. For example, if this is the dispersion medium and these are the colloidal particles, all they carry charge, positive charge. They may carry negative charge also. I am giving example of this positive charge. Because of their similar and equal charge, they repel and they are stable, they remain dispersed. But if somehow we discharge their charge, if we remove this charge, we can remove it. There are certain processes to do that. Then, after removal of charges, they become like these particles. And once charge is removed, they can come closer because repulsion is due to their charge. Once this charge is wiped out, removed out, they may come closer like this. And we can say coagulation will take place. Coming closer, coagulation is like cooperation, coming closer. And there is possibility that the particle will grow in size, summation, and it settles down. So what is the coagulation? It is settling down of what? Colloidal particles, also called as precipitation or flocculation. So there are certain methods of coagulation, removing of this charge, because colloids are of different types. So different types of methods have been devised to coagulate the colloidal particles. The first method of coagulation will make this table. Process, name of process or name of method. Right. Name of method and then process. What exactly happens in that? So first method is boiling. These colloidal particles are to be boiled, colloidal solution. What happens if we boil the colloidal particles? Adsorbed layer of ions is removed. This layer is removed. In coagulation, we expect that only. Adsorbed layer of ions is removed. Colloid becomes unstable and gets coagulated like that. What do I do? Right at the after these two sentences. By boiling, adsorbed layer of ions is removed. Colloidal solution becomes unstable. Colloids gets coagulated. So first method is by boiling this. Another is by electrophoresis. What happens to electrophoresis? This is the electrode here. And in this electrode, these colloidal particles are accumulating. So they get discharged and they grow in size and they settle down. And settling down itself is called as coagulation. So in electrophoresis, charge is removed on oppositely charged electrode, they get discharged. Colloidal solution becomes unstable and colloids gets coagulated like that. So electrophoresis is one of the method of coagulation. Third method is called as prolonged dialysis. Prolonged dialysis. Dialysis is the method of purification of the colloid. Trace amount of colloid is needed for its stability, but on prolonged dialysis, all the electrolyte is removed. So we can say electrolyte is completely removed, taken out, and if electrolyte is not there, it will not give charge. Trace amount of electrolyte is needed, and that's why they get coagulated. Fourth method is called as mutual coagulation. Fourth method is called as mutual coagulation. In this mutual coagulation, oppositely charged colloids mixed together in proper proportion. It is just like racemic mixture in optically active compounds. One which is dextrorotatory, another which is levorotatory. Their rotation is in different direction, clockwise and anti-clockwise. But if we make their equimolar solution, they get compensated. Just like that, the oppositely charged, one is positively charged, ferric hydroxide, one is negatively charged, arsenic sulfide. Mix them together in proper proportion. Then they neutralize one another. Colloidal solution becomes unstable and colloidal solution gets coagulated. And the next one is addition of electrolyte. Add electrolyte to it. What will happen? Excess electrolyte neutralizes charge on colloidal particles. Colloidal solution becomes unstable, colloidal solution gets coagulated. So what is the result of all this? The result of all this is colloidal solution becomes unstable. It will not remain now as a colloid, and colloidal solution gets coagulated is the ultimate result of all this process. So many times question has been asked in the examination also. Mention the methods of coagulation: boiling, electrophoresis, prolonged dialysis, mutual coagulation, addition of electrolyte. These are the methods. If they ask us to mention the methods, you write all these methods. If they ask a particular method, 2 sentences you should make. Boiling. On boiling colloid, adsorbed layer of ions is removed. Colloidal solution becomes unstable. Colloidal solution gets coagulated like this. If they ask about the electrophoresis, charge is removed, it becomes discharge when they migrate towards the opposite charge electron. On prolonged dialysis, electrolyte is completely removed, solution becomes unstable, colloidal solution gets coagulated. Mutual coagulation, oppositely charged colloids mixed together in proper proportion, colloidal solution becomes unstable, colloidal solution gets coagulated. Addition of electrolyte, excess of electrolyte neutralizes the charge of colloidal particles, colloidal solution becomes unstable, colloidal solution gets coagulated. So these are the different methods of the coagulation, process of settling down of colloidal particles to form precipitate is called as coagulation. So again, question can be asked for 1 to 2 marks. Now we'll move ahead to coagulation only. There is one important concept we have to learn in this coagulation, on which theory as well as MC questions are frequently asked. It is called as Hardy-Squirrel's rule. Hardy-Squirrel's rule. Now what this rule is? The rule says that coagulating power means power to cause coagulation. Coagulating power of an electrolyte is directly proportional to valency of an active ion. Active ion means that ion which causes the coagulation. Coagulating power of an electrolyte is directly proportional to the valency of an active ion. For example, if our colloidal particle is positively charged like this, and if we are adding electrolyte to it, electrolyte will have positive charge as well as negative charge. For example, sodium chloride, Na plus Cl minus, you get ionized into it. Barium chloride, Va plus 2 and Cl minus, like that. So, which ion will cause coagulation? Not positive charge. This is inactive ion, because our colloid is also positive charge. But as our colloid is positive charge, negative ion is called as active ion, because it will cause the coagulation. Oppositely charged present in the electrolyte is the active ion. Now we have negative ion as the active ion. This is Cl negative same. But if we take this magnesium sulfate, Mg plus 2 and SO2 minus 2 ion, it will give. If we apply this rule, coagulating power of an electrolyte, if we are considering two electrolytes, BaCl2 and MgSO4, valency of active ion, in this active ion is, in this two example, active ion, one here is fluoride ion and the sulfate ion. If chloride is positive charge, remember, if it is negative charge, active ion will be positive ion. But here in this case, chloride is positive charge, so this ion is active. This ion has two valency, two charge on it. This ion has one charge on it. So which has greater coagulating power? We can say SO4, 2 negative, has the more coagulating power than the Cl negative. So coagulating power of an electrolyte is directly proportional to valency of active ion. Now I will just remove this, and now this is negatively charged. Equal and similar charges. Negative, negative. This is negative, 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 negative. Now, which will be the active ion? Active ion will be positive now. This is active, and this will be inactive ion. And if we compare now, these two ions are now active ions, which is more efficient. Ba plus 2. Why? Because valence is greater. So we can make one small table here. After writing this rule, we can say that statement is very simple. Coagulating power of an electrolyte is directly proportional to valency of an active ion. So we can say charge on colloid, charge on active ion, and coagulating power. If charge on colloid is positive, what is the charge on active ion? Negative. And if we have this ions, like if we Cl6, 4 negative, hexacyanoferrate ion, and then phosphate 3 negative, SO4 2 negative, and Cl1 negative charge. What is the order here? Coagulating power of an electrolyte directly proportional to valency of active ion. Active ion is negative. Valency 4 is greater than 3, 3 is greater than 2, 2 is greater than 1, like this. Now if our colloid is negative, like example is As2S3, there are many, we have made the list of this. For example is FeOH. You should remember some 2-3 examples, at least those which are mentioned in textbook, because without giving charge also they may frame questions, because those charges are already there in textbook. So you refer that table, positively charged colloid and negatively charged colloid. Remember, if it is negative, the charge on active ion is positive. And if we have Al plus 3, Mg plus 2, and Na plus, active ion is positive because colloidal solution is negative. Directly proportional to valency of active ion. 3 is greater than 2, 2 is greater than 1. It means if we have As2S3 soul, the soul particles, and we are adding into this aluminium chloride, magnesium bromide, and NaCl. Out of these 3 electrolytes, which electrolyte has greater coagulating power? As this is negatively charged soul, they will mention in the question charge, or we have to see the example and then decide the charge. The positive part is this one, plus 3, plus 2, plus 1. And we can say that coagulating power is greater for AlCl3 than magnesium bromide than NaCl. This part here, chlorine, bromine and chlorine, doesn't matter, because these are inactive ions. Active ions are Al plus 3, Mg plus 2 and Na plus. Why these are active ions? Because our colloid is of negatively charged. So coagulating power of an electrolyte is directly proportional to valency of active ion is the statement of the Hardy-Squiel's rule, and we have to say that positively charged electrolyte, the charge on active ion is negative, and coagulating power is in this order. If negative ion is active ion, if it is positively charge ion is active ion. This is the one. Now another one, similar concept, but exactly opposite meaning, is the coagulating value. Coagulating value means, if we take colloid, this is colloidal solution, and we are adding the electrolyte into it. We can say for coagulation, coagulating value is nothing but minimum concentration in millimole per cubic decimeter of electrolyte required to cause coagulation of colloid in 2 hours. Time they have mentioned this technical definition, 2 hours time, but when we write we just mention 2 hours. Why 2 hours and why not less and more, that part will not go into detail. But it is the concentration, minimum concentration in millimoles per cubic decimeter of an electrolyte required to cause the coagulation of colloid. For example, if we say coagulating power, which is directly proportional to the valence of active ion, Al plus 3 is greater than Mg plus 2 greater than NMs. Now, which colloid, which electrolyte is required in more amount? That will require in more amount, whose power is less, Na plus. As it has less power, we need to add more 2 into it, so that coagulation may take place. So if we have this order of coagulating power, what is the order of coagulating value? Again I am writing this, Al plus 3, Mg plus 2, Na plus. More Na plus is to be added than Mg plus 2 than the Al plus 3, because its capacity is less, more is required. Its capacity is more, less amount is required. So what we can say here, very important relation, coagulating power is inversely proportional to coagulating value. Yes, very important relation we are observing here. Greater the coagulating power, smaller is the coagulating value, means it is inversely proportional. So coagulating power of electrolyte directly proportional to valency of active ion. And I just extend this relation and I will say it is inversely proportional to coagulating value of an electrolyte. Coagulating power, capacity of an electrolyte to cause the coagulation. Coagulating value, minimum concentration in millimoles per cubic decimeter of electrolyte required to cause the coagulation of chloride in 2 hours. So this is the way in which we can relate this. So when question is asked, you have to be very careful. First step, find out the charge on colloid, which is to be coagulated, positive or negative. Second step, take the decision on active ion, whether positive or negative. Third step, read the coagulating power or coagulating value. And fourth step, of course take the decision depending on the question, increasing order or decreasing order. So not difficult question, but thing is that if the concepts are not clear, students will get confused, and if students get confused, there is possibility of question can be asked on that particular part. So we should be very careful in reading this particular matter. Many such questions are there in our study material in MCQs form, coagulating power and coagulating value, and your concepts will be more clear after solving those questions. Now we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the stability of lyophilic soil and lyophobic soil. We say that lyophilic soils are more stable than lyophobic soil. In differentiating between lyophilic colloid and lyophilic colloid, we have seen this. Now, why it is so? The cause of stability. There are two causes in lyophilic. First is charge. They carry equivalent similar charges and there is force of repulsion between them. They won't come closer, they won't get coagulated. No, we are learning that. Another is the solvation. Solvation means the solvent molecule surrounds them. They are heavily solvated around them and it makes them more stable. Lyophilic soil, they are stabilized only by charge. There is no solvation in the lyophilic. So lyophilic are more stable than the lyophobic because in addition to charge, one more factor which gives them stability is their solvation. Now, how to coagulate? We can say addition of electrolyte to neutralize charge is one way, but this is not enough for lyophilic because only this factor is removed. Solvation is there. If solvent is water, we can say addition of suitable liquids like alcohol or acetone for dehydration. Dehydration means water is removed. So one more way is additional required to destabilize the lyophilics. For lyophobic, just addition of electrolyte to neutralize charge is enough. So consider these 3 points. Now why we are learning this? Because I would write a very important sentence here. Lyophobic soil can be stabilized by addition of lyophilic soil. If on the lyophobic soil, in the lyophilic soil, if we add lyophilic soil, then its stability will be increased. How it will increase? This is lyophobic soil, which is not much stable compared to lyophilic. It has its charge on it. If we add lyophilic soil into it, it also comes with this charge. So one layer of charge, additional layer, and on this there is a layer of solvent molecule, solvation. So if electrolyte is to be added, and it has to be coagulate this lyophobic sole. It has to go through the layer of solvation, charge of lyophilic sole, and then the charge of lyophilic sole. So we are increasing the security, protection is being done. This is called as, in this case, this lyophobic sole is called as protected colloid. I don't know whether these circles are, they are not very decent, just because they are drum. They should look like circle, but there is layers on it. So this is protected colloid because it is to be protected, and this lyophilic sole is protective colloid. So we are increasing the layers on it, and then little bit circles are not proper, not little bit. You already excused me for that. So it is to be protected by addition of lyophilic sole, so that it's lyophilic sole will protect the lyophobic sole. This is just like security provided. You might have observed or listen that why security? If this person is there, and it is to be secure. This is this type of bodyguard something like this. This is called as why security. If we increase more security, if this person is to be secure, this is called as Z security. So that from all sides, if that person is attacked, this people is expected to protect him. So Z security is better than the Y security. There are different formations. There is Y plus, there is Z plus, like that. But these are type of securities given to the VIP. Here is VIP. So it is important person politically, whatever way is important. Now we are living in era that we don't know which is important person, but thing is that it is to be protected, and these are the formation of the body parts, and the protective action. It is just like in this case, which is to be protected is called as lyophobic colloid, and this is lyophilic colloid. This is lyophilic. It is being protected by that. So this is the protective action of the lyophilic sole, which is there in our syllabus. One paragraph is mentioned. I explained it. Not difficult to understand this, but this protective ability can be measured by one concept called as gold number. What is the gold number? It is the number of milligrams of electrolyte added to just prevent the coagulation of 10 milliliter of standard gold sole, number of milligrams of protective colloid added to prevent the coagulation of 10 milliliter of standard gold sole on addition of 1 milliliter of 10% NaCl solution. So here is electrolyte, here is the sole to be protected, and and here is the protective chloride we are adding. And number of milligrams of that to be added is called as the gold number. Why gold number? Because concept is related to the protection of gold soap. So it is just like this is the gold soap. These are the gold particles. And if we add that, we have taken this as 10 milliliter. If we add 1 milliliter of 1% NaCl into it, this is electrolyte. Metal salts are negatively charged. Alright. Positive charge is active ion here. It will cause its coagulation, but we have to stop that coagulation. So we are adding the protective chloride here. And the number of milligrams of protective chloride added is called as the gold number. If its protection ability is greater, the addition will be in small amount, isn't it? So we can say that protective power of colloid is inversely proportional to gold number. This is the relation we are having. If protection power is greater, gold number is smaller. If gold number is greater, protective power is less. So number of milligrams of protective chloride added just to prevent the coagulation of 10 milliliter of standard gold soap on addition of 1 milliliter of 10% NaCl is called as the gold number. So this very important concept, and it is inversely proportional to the gold number. Just like coagulating power and coagulating value were inversely proportional, protective power and gold number are also inversely proportional. So only emulsion and the applications of colloids is left, and then catalysis part. So all this part which we have learned today, the remaining properties and these concepts are also equally important. You can refer various MCQs and previous questions, and you will understand how important these concepts are. So keep studying. Thank you for watching video.